Hey, everybody. I'm here with the miserable liberal and Ron Placone.
I'm miserable.
Howdy, howdy.
So we've showed you how the mainstream news always beats the drum for war. We've also showed you how the mainstream news, like the Washington Post, has a $600 million deal literally with the CIA, which is worth 2-3 times what their paper's worth. And they don't disclose it when they write about stuff about the CIA. Like WikiLeaks and Russia and Syria and Trump and the servers and Seth Rich. They never mention it. They never mention that they have a huge conflict of interest. They also don't mention when they let lobbyists write editorials for them. They don't disclose that they're lobbyists. We showed you that too. This is the Washington Post. This is the paper everyone. Oh, it's a paper of note. Everyone loves the Washington Post. It's owned by an 80 billionaire predatory capitalist. What could be wrong? Who has a $600 million deal with the CIA? Well, I don't see a problem. Here, this guy Adam Johnson, who writes for Fair, this guy is great. He made a great catch. He said, do they ever get tired of recycling the same goons? What is he talking about? Well, there was this editorial, by the way, Washington Post, Democracy Dies in Darkness. That's like their business model.
Yes.
They're not upset about it.
I think that's their
A-okay.
to-do list.
Yeah.
I think that's their goal.
Yeah, that is. Let's see. Kill democracy, check. Kill local economies through Amazon, check. All right.
Unnecessarily smear a comedy show on YouTube, check.
Check. Check. Instruct your lead political reporter to print DNC talking points. The emails were banal. Check. Literally, DNC talking points. The Washington Post put in that article. Well, here's a new article. This is an editorial. The Trump administration should not give up on removing Assad in Syria. Really? Now, we've told you all about the war in Syria is bullshit, right? That the mainstream media doesn't report it correctly. That the reason there's lots of reasons why we're in Syria. None of them are what they tell you. We're there to help people. We're there to make sure fossil fuels get sold by the right people, and as a pushback against Iran. That's what this is about. So who wrote it? Who wrote this? Who's the guy who wrote this? Michael G. Vickers. Who is Michael G. Vickers? The guy who wrote this. The guy who says we should still be warring in Syria. This guy. Who is it? I'll read what that says to him. He is he is an American defense official. He's a defense official who served as the Undersecretary of Defense of Intelligence within the United States. Blah blah. He was born in Burbank, California, where we do our live shows.
Bet he's a regular attendee.
Before joining the Defense Department, Vickers served in the Army Special Forces as both a non-commissioned and commissioned officer, as well as the Central Intelligence Agency. So this is a CIA guy. Remember, the Washington Post has a deal they don't disclose to you ever. This is a guy but they will write articles about the Vermont electric grid was hacked by Russians, which is a bullshit story that came right from the CIA, which they still haven't retracted. So who was this guy? He's a CIA guy.
And of course, they mentioned that in the posting.
The CIA
right?
guy. He says, while the CIA has played a key role in arming of the resistance to the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. So he was in the CIA paramilitary operations officer from their elite special activities division, while in the CIA, he played a key role in arming of the resistance to the Soviet invasion. What does that mean? That means he was the guy who had the big idea to arm Osama bin Laden. That's that guy. Key role. And that's why and it works so well, they've been doing it ever since. That's why they still say we should still go. That's why we were arming Al-Qaeda in Syria and ISIS in Syria. Because of that guy's thinking. because of the CIA. That's who was doing it. The people who are in bed with the fucking Washington Post. And then they let that guy write an editorial like that. And there's the editorial. I don't see anywhere. It says Michael G. Vickers served as Assistant Secretary of Defense for Special Operations, Low Intensity Conflict and Interdependent Capabilities, and Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence during the Bush and Obama administrations. Does not mention he's in the CIA, was in the CIA. Does not mention that. Isn't that interesting?
I mean, that opinion's almost like he's subtly trying to get a gig. You know, like, hey, Trump, stir the pot in Syria. I know just the guy that could help you out. I got a great track record.
So that's who, and so here's some of the stuff from the article, by the way, that Adam Johnson caught. So let's just read this to you. President Ronald Reagan understood the potential of covert proxy wars to alter global power balances. Covert proxy wars. We're upset that somebody hacked a frickin' email. Whereas he understands the potential of actually having a covert proxy war. A war to overthrow people's governments. That's what this guy's talking about. Through stepped-up support for the Afghan Mujahideen, I can't say it. How do you say it?
Mujahideen?
Yeah.
Mujahideen.
Mujahideen. That's how you say it. Thank you. Mujahideen and other anti-communist movements and other complementary strategic policies. You mean like Iran-Contra? You mean like selling arms to terrorists? He won the Cold War. Oh, Jesus. It took the Carter and Reagan administrations more than 5 years to come up with war-winning strategy, work that I helped to lead as a CIA officer. So at least he puts it right in his... So if you read it, he lets people know he's a CIA officer. So there you go. He's doing the work the Washington Post won't do. Against the Soviet Union and Afghanistan. The same could be done in Syria today. So if we do what this guy says, we're going to create some more. We'll create another Taliban and the fucking Osama bin Laden. What could go wrong? What could go wrong? Here's a little bit more from what he says. This civil war in Syria represented our primary opportunity to roll back Iranian power in the Middle East and to sever its primary supply line to Hezbollah. We are squandering that opportunity. I'm going to read that to you again. Why are we in Syria? Here's what this guy says. The civil war in Syria represented our primary opportunity to roll back Iranian power in the Middle East and to sever its primary supply line to Hezbollah. I thought we were there because Assad was a butcher. I thought we were there because we cared about people. We care about people so much, we manufacture cluster bombs in the United States, sell them to Saudi Arabia, and they drop them on the poorest people in the world, which is a war crime. So it turns out this guy let the cat right out of the bag. It's right in the goddamn editorial. And that's not front page news. By the way, that's not on the front page of the news. Hey, CIA guy admits why we're really in Syria. Isn't that something?
He does so unapologetically.
Yes.
Too. Like, I mean, I can't even grasp that line of thinking. Like, hey, there's a civil war in Syria. Oh man, that's a drag. He goes, what an opportunity!
Yes.
What a golden opportunity.
All right, I see this more as a confession.
Right. Exactly. Like.
You would think that this would be, people would be like going nuts, like writing articles about, oh my God, did you see the Washington Post accidentally revealed why we're really in? And that's just part of the reason. That's not the whole reason. That's the thing he likes. But that's a big part of it. Also, look at our other videos. Why we're there. There's a pipeline, baby. There's a pipeline. There's lots of good reasons for the United States predatory capitalists and the military-industrial complex to want to overthrow Assad. And literally install ISIS. That's who they would install. Islamic terrorists. That's who they would install. Literally. So I guess this guy in the Washington Post never heard of this book by Chalmers Johnson called Blowback. It's a national bestseller. I'm going to guess he probably didn't read it. This is the description of the book at Amazon. It says, The term blowback was invented by the CIA. Did you know that?
No.
The term blowback was invented by the CIA. You know what else was invented by the CIA? The term conspiracy theory. And why did they invent that? Because whenever somebody was onto something, they smear them saying you're a conspiracy theorist. And they developed that right around, the JFK assassination. And so now when anybody questions the government's line, they call you a conspiracy theorist. You're not allowed to talk about it. That goes with anything. You've seen it happen. You've seen it happen to this show. The term blowback, invented by the CIA, refers to the unintended results of Americans' actions abroad. In this incisive and controversial book, Chalmers Johnson lays out in vivid detail the dangers faced by our overextended empire, which insists on projecting its military power to every corner of the earth and using American capital and markets to force global economic integration on its own terms. So blowback. So they know about blowback, and guess what? They don't give a shit. They don't care. They don't care about blowback. They don't care what happened in Iraq. How many people do you think we killed in Iraq? They don't care what happens from their policy. This guy, he doesn't care. That guy doesn't care about what happened from Iraq. He doesn't care what happened from Afghanistan. He doesn't care what happened when we propped up the Taliban and Osama bin Laden. He doesn't care how many people he kills. His stupid ideas of killing people to fix the world. He doesn't care. This guy's a fucking sociopathic maniac who doesn't learn from anything. All he learns is do it again. Let's do more. Here's a real journalist, award-winning journalist, John Pilger. Let's listen to what he has to say about Iraq.
Those who read newspapers and watch television and listen to the radio are given no real sense of the scale of the bloodshed among ordinary Iraqis. If you ask somebody who is quite in the street, who's opposed to the war and doesn't like the idea, but you ask them, how many Iraqis do you think have been killed as a result of Blair's and Bush's invasion? They may say a few thousand, they may not know. In fact, the most reliable survey, which was done by the Johns Hopkins School of Public Health with Iraqis, an extraordinary survey, meticulous and conscientious and quite courageous in the way it was carried out, peer-reviewed, probably leads us to almost 1 million people. Les Roberts, who led that study, he said it seems as if the scale of killing in Iraq will have passed the scale of killing in Rwanda.
And they want more of it. Washington Post wants more of it. Let's remember, Washington Post shamed you if you questioned the Iraq war. Shamed you on their editorial pages. Not some blogger. Their editorial board shamed you if you questioned George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. Literally shamed you. They said it's hard to imagine how anyone could doubt the evidence of Saddam having weapons of mass destruction. So, by the way, let's a little more of this.
Statistically, the majority of terrorism is our terrorism. It is state terrorism. There's no question about that.
So what that guy from the CIA is advocating is state terrorism. Just so you know. And we all know, if you watch this show, the biggest actors in terrorism are governments, mainly ours.
And the greatest victims of terrorism are Muslims. Those who either died as a result of the medieval embargo imposed on Iraq during the 1990s, or Palestinians who've died, and others. So the whole understanding of terrorism is upside down. Now there is, as opposed to state terrorism, a kind of privatized terrorism. It's very tiny. It's run by organizations called Al-Qaeda. There was one study at the University of Chicago that found that of this privatized terrorism, in the last 30-odd years, something like 20-odd thousand people had died. A very tiny figure compared to the millions who have died as a result of state terrorism.
You tell me. So there's the Washington Post. And by the way, well, here, there's more to this.
I think there is a war on terror.
There isn't.
I think that's a propaganda notion.
There is no war.
The attacks of September the 11th were appropriated by a clique in the US establishment in order to further its aims around the world. If that isn't clear to most people, as I believe it is, then I don't know where they've been for the last few years. But it's not reported that way. Yes, a lot of journalists put terrorism and war on terror in inverted commas, but after a while they weary of that. It's as if there really is a war on terror, and there isn't a war on terror. There is a war of terror.
So, and who's the terrorists? Us. And who's their propaganda arm? The Washington Post, the New York Times, CNN, MSNBC, and everybody in between.
Yeah, the war on terror exists because when you have a war against a vaguely defined enemy, you can keep the war going on indefinitely, and that's what the military-industrial complex wants.
Ron, this is what Orwell talked about.
Mm-hmm.
This is directly out of it.
Well, we also
This is endless, sorry, Steph. This is endless war for endless peace. We got to fight terrorism anywhere we find it. Turns out everywhere we find terrorism is where there's oil. And that's something, Steph.
We've had the conversation before that we couldn't understand why people were so quick to have that knee-jerk reaction. Yes, let's go bomb Syria. Let's hurry up and go bomb them. And we couldn't. I remember just sitting there and say, "There's no healthy skepticism about what you're listening to, and why is there such like this inclination for people to be so inspired to go bomb another country? Now it's like second nature. That's how we're going to go solve all these problems."
That's right. Noam Chomsky, Obama's drone program, the most extreme terrorist campaign of modern times. What the Washington Post won't tell you that, New York Times won't tell you that, CNN, MSNBC. In fact, they'll give their editorial page to a fucking CIA guy who's advocating for more war. You know why? Because they're for more war. Because Jeff Bezos gets a $600 million deal with the CIA. That's why, baby. And there's another report at the Washington Post we're going to do a story on where Jeff Bezos told his reporters, you don't criticize our advertisers. We're going to get to that. Anyway, let's not mix stories. There you go. So they're still doing it. Good catch by Adam Johnson. Any last thoughts on this?
I was just going to say, like, and we know why the media is pro-war. We talk about that all the time on this show, but I really wish we lived in a world where, you know how in Star Trek, whenever they have battles, they always talk about the damage report. Like Captain Kirk gets the damage report, and the other side, they talk about their damage report. I really wish we never used the term winner and loser in describing war, and instead we just reiterate the damage that was caused. Like instead of like, well, World War II, where World War II, where this happened to Japan and this happened to, whatever country. We just talk about the damage that each conflict causes.
Right. There's only victims in war. There's only victims. So there you go. Thank you. I would just say thank you again to the Washington Post. Democracy dies in darkness. Let's give our editorial page over to a CIA guy advocating for more terrorism. And you wonder why people get their news from YouTube.